lie there in that old curiosity shop.
Well, it's a beautiful day for a little electric light restoration. You may remember I bought these, I think, last summer, and I'm just getting around to actually doing the work on them right now. These parts are in here and they're soaking. Now these are wall sconces from the 1920s. This one I've already started to do some stripping on, and this is the one that's, well, they were both completely painted black. And it's heavy cast iron with a brass finish on it, and I'm going to take it all the way back and polish them up and have them look really nice. And then I'll be able to put those pieces back on. This is a, there's no caustic smell to this, no bad fumes, and it's a little more environmentally safe, and I like using it. So these are soaking in the bucket. And these should be down inside of some type of an aluminum pan, but since I don't have one where I am, we're just going to paint them with the stripper. I've got it in this old strawberry box. And let the citrus do its work. Come back in a couple of hours, get some steel wool and scrub them up. And put them back together again, and they'll be beautiful. Okay, so we're going to let this sit here, and I'll be back later. Okay, so they have been stripped of the black paint that was on them, completely stripped, and then sanded down. And then I sprayed them with this bright metallic radiator paint, and a lot of people would just leave them this way. Not me. So what we need to do is begin the aging process. So get yourself a pad of steel wool. I should be wearing gloves, but I'm not. And we're going to rough these up a little bit. Now don't be timid with this. Just go at it. Alright, and we're going to be removing, you see, immediately. We're getting some old wear on these, what would be old wear. So we're going to take off some of this gold paint, especially on the raised sections. Alright, and I'm not going to do this whole thing on film. You're going to get the idea. The steel wool is going to take this paint right off. It's also going to create a finish that's buffed up, and it will accept the next application of stain that we're going to put on it and the final coat of clear lacquer. So just keep working here. This takes a while. Okay, but you've got to do this. Okay, I think you can see that I have really roughed these guys up. And that's what a good coarse steel wool is going to do. So I've added some wear, taken the shiny top coat off of this. And this is what just, you know, even though you say, well, the only place you'd really see wear would be here on the switch. But actually over time, gold plating and silver plating on fixtures like this just does deteriorate. I'm not sure why. I guess it's just plain old oxidation. So we've got this down now to where it's looking pretty good. And the decorative cover that goes over the socket, this is going to go on like this. We're going to get into a little bit later whether do they hang this way or this way. You might be surprised when you find out, but we'll talk about that later. Well, no, we are not going to talk about it later. We're going to talk about it right now. Now, if you hear anything creaking, that's not my bones. That's this old Windsor chair I'm sitting in, which happens to be one of my favorites, creaks and all. Okay, take a look. Here is the exact same fixtures that I have. And this is the original finish as it appeared, new, released by the Mo Bridges Electric Light Company in the 1920s. You'll notice it has an applied patina. Now that's a finish that's put on in the factory. And if you look very closely, you'll notice there's a little hint of rose in the intricate pattern down below where the light switch is, and just a hint on the flame up at the top and on just a couple of the other areas on this fixture. There is a two-tone sort of polychrome finish that's been applied to this thing, and you can see that it was meant for the light bulbs to be hanging downward. That's exactly how it was manufactured. Now the only thing mine are missing are the little pedals that would screw onto the very tip of the socket just above where you see the light bulb hanging down. But thankfully I still have the decorative leaves that cover the socket, and somewhere around here in one of my boxes I've got something that I could use, but we're just going to take them as they are. Now my goal in refinishing these is to not just wind up with a flashy gold spray painted finish, but to try to recreate, not exactly, but in the style of the original polychrome finish that we see here in the original. Now, take a look. Here is the actual page from the Mo Bridges catalog. I know it's very fuzzy. I couldn't get a copy of it in any better definition than that, so don't think that you're wearing frosted lenses. It's fuzzy, but you can see there's the light fixture with the light bulb hanging in the downward position. The flame is up above, the light switch is down below, and on this one we see hints of blue on that sort of center oval. You know, these could be polychromed in many different ways. Polychrome is just several different colors that are applied in the factory, usually cold painted, sprayed on, mass produced this way. And so I'm going to take some artistic liberties. I don't think I'm going to do that center oval in blue, but hey, it's an open canvas for me to do what I want. I just want to return these back to the style of the 1920s. But there it is, the original catalog from the Mo Bridges Company. And then finally, here's another picture of them on my living room floor. They have both been stripped of that awful black paint, and we're taking them right down to the base metal. I'm not going to leave them this way because, as you saw from the catalog, they weren't meant to be used this way or displayed this way. So now let's go back to the workshop and see how the polychroming is coming. Okay, so the next step is to darken these up. And we're going to give it the same treatment that we gave those 1920s lamps. So this is Minwax stain. I have a medium walnut color stain here. I'll move this out of the way. And I'm just using a paper towel. And again, don't be timid with this. Get it in there, right? Yeah, I'm wearing gloves this time. I dirtied up my hands enough yesterday. You see what's happening here? This is adding a wonderful old antique oxidized brass finish to it. And a lot of these patinas were actually applied in the factory. So this is what we're going to do before we polychrome it. And this will take a little while to get it looking like I want. Just don't be, as I said, don't be afraid. Splash it on there. We're not painting the Mona Lisa. It's going to look fantastic. Have a little confidence in yourself. You can do it. See? All right, I'll just keep going here. And if it gathers in the cracks, leave it there. That's the way things age over time anyway, and get dirty. Just think, if these were on the wall next to a fireplace for 80 years, think of all of the soot and smoke and coal dust, and fireplaces will dirty up a living room. We don't necessarily think of it that way, but they do. Then add all that pipe tobacco smoke, and the lady of the house probably at some point put a coat of paste wax. People used to put Johnson's wax on everything. Leather book covers, parchment lampshades. Yes, they did. And when you hear the old advertisements for Johnson's wax, they encourage people to wax your parchment lampshades. Oh boy. I mean, I can barely mop the floor. I have to feel guilty that I haven't put wax on my lampshades. Well, that was a different era, wasn't it? I'm lucky if I dust once a month. Okay. I like a little bit of dust. I can see the cat's footprints. I know where he's been and where he's not supposed to be. I'm really just kidding. I'm a pretty good housekeeper. So this first coat is almost finished. Okay, you get the idea. It's looking good already, isn't it? We've already just added 60 years to it. All right, now I'm going to put this out in the sunshine and let it dry. But don't you go away, because I'll be right back. Okay, now, how do we get from this stage to this stage? Let's just review quickly. These were painted black when I bought these, and they needed to be completely stripped down to the base metal. These were not meant to be displayed with just the base metal. They always had a patina on them applied in the factory. Now, I could have chosen just to leave it with this sort of antique brass color or antique gold color, but since I'm, dealing with a blank canvas, I thought, well, why not go ahead and just attempt a little bit of a polychrome? And so really just a hint. I'm not trying to absolutely replicate what was on it, but this is just sort of it gives you a hint, a little bit of, so there's just a hint of color. And the way I'm going to do that is, and by the way, this now has been wiped down twice and allowed to dry twice with wood stain, and then I scuffed it up again with all kinds of things. Steel wool and wire brushes and everything to sort of take it back down to this old look, which is very original, close to the original. So what I'm going to do now to polychrome it, and I don't know that I would have necessarily chosen these colors. They're okay. It's the colors that I have on hand. And so I'm going to start off with a cream color and then a blue and a red. And what I'm doing is I'm just spraying it in the lid here and using a Q-tip. So let me put this one. I have to take a look at this one to make sure I remember how to color them the same. I want to color them the same way. So in goes a little bit of this cream color, and this is just going to be my base color. Move this out of the way for a second. You don't really have to see that. And okay, so then what I'm going to do is, well, you can see. And again, these were done in an assembly line in a factory. These were sprayed. So the polychrome that was put on these wasn't hand done. It was all sprayed on. I'm not spraying anything on, but I'm not going to be fussy. They didn't come out with a uniform evenness to the color. And it actually looks better if you don't fuss that much. Now this is just giving me a base on which I'll apply the red and the blue color once these dry. So you're not going to be seeing this. This is going to be covered up by the other colors. And these would come from the factory with many different finishes. The Polychrome was just one of the finishes. And really, Polychrome is a fancy way of saying multicolored paint applied to the surface. Now, let me see here. I just want to make sure I get everything that's going to be painted. I think that's got it. Oops, nope. Down here. Now I know right now you're going, ah, he's ruining it. But you'll see. Okay. And that's it. Okay, that's all I want to do. So now we're going to step away from this and let it dry. And remember, we are going to wind up with something that looks just like this. All right, so I'll be back. All right, now I'm going to spray the blue paint into the cap that has the sort of ivory color, because this blue, hold on, let me do it over here so I don't get paint on the camera. This blue needs to be toned down a little bit to a little bit of a pastel color. That's about what I want. That sort of seems to match the other one. Okay, now this is actually a little bit lighter in color than the first, so I like this a little bit better. This really is the way these looked. Uneven, a little on the blotchy side. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, now I'm taking a paper towel, and I don't care if some of the paper towel fuzz actually gets stuck onto these. It won't matter, because we're going to rough them up again when we're finished. See, some of it's sticking right there? That's really not going to be a problem. It will come off when I scrape these with a wire brush. Okay, let's get these side by side. Now you'll see there's still quite a bit of a difference. This is just way too bright, but we're going to get it to this. Now comes the red color. And I'm even using the same Q-tip. I didn't clean it off at all. Where are we? Here we are. I'm just going to do this little sort of beaded area around the oval. See? If you get a little where you don't want it, don't worry. We're going to be able to get that off. All right, now, right in here. And since these are wall sconces, they're going to be hanging on the opposite sides of a fireplace or in a hallway. Sometimes just inside of a living room, you know, French doors, that kind of thing. All right. You can see what I'm doing here. I think I'm going to move to a fresh towel because it's starting to get a little messy. Now see in here where I got some paint where I would prefer it not to be, we'll just smear it in there. And I'm still going to be doing another coat of the walnut wood stain. So that's how we're going to darken this up even more. Well, what I was trying to say, change the subject, is that these are going to be hanging sort of on opposite sides of something, and so they won't be right next to each other, so they don't have to match perfectly. But you can see we're getting there. Yeah. All right, now, while it's still somewhat wet, I'm going to take this. This is not a wire brush. It's plastic or whatever that is. And I'm just going to do this to it. Yeah, man. Just go at it. Rough it up. Okay. And even before it dries, in fact, I prefer to go ahead and do it now. Let me open up my wood stain. And I should go and get my gloves, but oh well. I'm going to just have a blowout manicure when I'm done with all of this. Now we're going to go back into the wood stain. And right over top of this. Doesn't matter that it's still wet. See, we're building up layers, and that's one of the keys to making something look aged, is layer upon layer upon layer upon layer, and then roughen it up, and then another layer, and roughen it up. And the more you do, the darker these are going to get. So if you decide, oh, it's just a little too shiny for me, or it's not quite dark enough, you just keep putting layers on, and it just gets better and better. Anyway, this is so much better than the black paint that was on these, because they were not meant to be painted black, I think, anyway. And you know I like to get things looking like they used to look in the 20s and 30s. Mo Bridges. These are Mo Bridges light fixtures, wall fixtures. And the company, let's see, I'll show you on this one here. Maybe we can show you, where does it say? Well, you're not going to be able to see it very well. but it's right in here. You see the word bridge? Do you see Mo Bridges? I don't know that you can see it. Right there. Company known for their wall light fixtures, other types of electrical lighting, the Depression era and before. And so, okay, we'll put the two of these next to each other there. Now again, this one is shiny because it's wet, so fear not. Okay, let me put all of this away and we'll come back for the last step. Okay, guess what I did? I put all of my paints and brushes and accoutrements away, and I forgot to polychrome the decorative shield that covers the socket. So I'm not going to fiddle with that now. I'll get it out some other time and actually finish this off. But for right now, just know that I forgot to do that. Brilliant. I have sprayed this with a coat of clear lacquer. I allowed it to somewhat dry. But now I'm going over with this rag and taking off the shine. So the top surface of the lacquer, which was just a little tacky, we're now getting it completely off. And I'm only leaving a little bit left on here. Okay, I hope you can see what I'm doing. All right. Now again, I'm going to take this brush and have at it. It's like polishing. Remember when we polished our shoes back in the day? You still polish your own shoes?
We had a brush. This again is going to take any of the stickiness off, and it's going to dull down the brightness and the shininess of the lacquer. And then once these completely dry for about 24 hours, depending on humidity, and we have almost no humidity now, that does affect the drying time a little bit. Okay, I think it's the way I want it to pick it up. You haven't really seen the backs, have you? And there's the front.
Still a little glossy. That gloss will go away, as I said, over the next 24 hours or so. And I also have bright lights shining on this. All right, let's compare it with the other one. I'll be right back.
This is a thriller.
Okay, that's it. There they are. Now the one over here, there's a little more blue. We see a little more blue on this one than we do this. So I'm actually going to go back and tone this blue down just a little bit. But I still don't think they look bad at all. And actually, I'm really pleased with the way they turned out. Very pleased. Okay, there we go. So that's how it would look. And this is actually an antique light bulb, and it does work. The bulb itself is not burnt out. These came in all different colors. Pink, blue, salmon. It's hard to find these flame bulbs anymore that look authentic. They do make them, but they kind of have a 1970s look to them. But this is an old one. And we just see a hint of wire coming out of the socket. The wire would come out of here, go through this hole, and run along the very top of this arm where you would not see it. You see, with it hung up like that. And then it would go down through that hole, out the back, down to the switch, and you'd be all set. So there they are, ready for a 1920s house. Okay, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'm Scott from the Old Curiosity Shop, saying, don't be afraid to tackle a project like this. If you don't like it, you can always strip it and start all over again. But I think taking these wonderful old fixtures and getting that awful black paint off and returning them to this was well worth my time. Okay, thanks for watching everyone. So long for now.